You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Well, greetings, everyone. You're listening to another episode of Leadership Powered by Common Sense. I'm your host, Doug Thorpe. We're here today to talk about all different aspects of business and ideas that can help you as an owner or a leader do more with the team and the business that you've got responsibility for. My guest today is a gentleman who's going to describe to us his own brand of a 5-pillar business model that will hopefully give you some ideas and insights into strengthening and improving your own business. His name is Steve Preda. Steve, welcome to the show.
Doug, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, and I always like to ask the question, where in the world are you calling from?
I'm calling from Central Virginia, just outside of Richmond.
Okay.
But my accent gives me away, so I moved here 10 years ago from Hungary in Central Europe.
I wondered, as we say here, I'm down in the Houston area, and it sounds like you're from East Texas.
Yeah, I like to say it's the far east end of Richmond.
That's a local
it's basically
joke.
The same thing.
That's a local joke. Okay, well, again, welcome to the show, and glad you're here with us. So, tell us a little bit about your backstory. What's your journey been like? How did you get to the place you are now, business-wise, and somewhere along the way, how'd you come up with the idea for the book and the program that you're sharing?
Yeah, so in my previous life, as far as I know, I've been conscious, let's say 10 years old. I've been dreaming about becoming an entrepreneur. My parents were both doctors, but my great-grandfather was a very successful baker. He built a bakery business in Budapest before the war, and I always heard stories about his rags to riches journey. So I kind of wanted to go that direction. And when I was 35 years old, I was in banking, accounting. I worked in different European countries. And when I was 35, I started building my own business, which was in investment banking. And we had a good run. We also had some challenges, especially around 2008. We almost went out of business. And then I picked up a copy of Gino Wickman's Traction, which talked about this business operating system. I also read the E-Myth from Michael Gerber earlier. And I really liked this kind of system, so I implemented it. And it really helped our company get through the difficult times. And eventually I sold the business to private equity group, and we moved here. And then I started first working with peer groups, and but the Traction idea kept coming back. So about 5 years ago, I started implementing Traction for other companies, and then about 2 years ago, a group of people left EOS, the EOS world, the Entrepreneur Operating System. People who felt that it was too constrained, it was too cookie cutter. So we left, and I joined this organization called Pinnacle Business Guides, and we started building our own system. And last year I had this idea. I went to the founder of Pinnacle that I want to write this book about Pinnacle. I want to dig deeper what it is, how we're gonna do it, how we are different. And he agreed. So I've written this book, and he joined me as a co-author of this book. And what Pinnacle is, if your listeners are familiar with EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, so Pinnacle is a way to do three things beyond what EOS has done. First one is to bring it up to date, because EOS was created about 20 years ago, and it's been pretty constant, which is its strength as well. But we felt that there are so many good ideas come in. No one has the market cornered for good ideas. So we felt that there is time for a facelift. Secondly, we wanted a system which is customizable, not cookie cutter, because every company is unique, and we want to meet every business owner on their journey, or the unique journey where they are.
Yeah.
So customizable. And the third one is scalable. So this is not unlimited. This is not an 18 months to 24 months journey. This is an infinite journey. We start wherever the company is. We implement the basic tools that all our forebears came up with, starting with Jim Collins and Michael Gerber and Jack Stacks and Vern Harnish and Gino Wickman. And we also curate all the new tools that are coming in, and we bring them to our clients so that they can keep ascending to the top of the mountain.
Neat. Well, I like the idea that there are great and wonderful business principles that are taught, and they kind of get ingrained in the vocabulary and vernacular of the day. And 10, 20 years later, people are still talking about them. But to your point, business continues to change almost daily and evolve. And so it is always fresh or a good idea to refresh some of those old ideas and see what can fit. So let's hit real quick, just at a really high level. We'll drill into detail later, but what are the 5 principles that are in the Pinnacle model?
So the 5 principles, each of them starts with a P. So first one is people. That's where we start. Since Jim Collins, first get the right people on the bus, put them in the right seats, figure out where to go. Next one is purpose. So what is where we're going? What is our why? What is our vision? What is our strategy? How do we align everyone around that? Then we have to define our playbooks, because that's the only way to keep growing. If everything that's repeatable, we turn it into a playbook and we give it to people who have less experience and intuition than we have. And then we want to make sure that it's performance, that everyone is performing in the organization at a high level. We have a strategic planning process. We are setting goals. We are quarterly refreshing the goals. We have metrics for everyone in the organization. We have a meeting structure to make sure everyone is exercising peer accountability. And finally, the profit. So profit is the byproduct of all these P's: the people, the purpose, the playbooks, the performance. But it's also a measuring stick. So we want to make sure that we are benchmarking ourselves to the best companies in our industry, and we strive to achieve our top of the line profitability, and then sustain it over time by digging a moat around our business and creating a strategy stack that cements in our advantage in the market.
I'm always intrigued I can't tell you how many models I've run into that have the P alliteration. There's a colleague of mine and I wrote something we call the team trust model. It's a 6-part model, but they're all 6 parts are P words, and very similar in many ways to yours, but I'm not going to digress and get into that right now. If anybody's looking for that, they can find it in all my other articles and blog posts. It's called the team trust model. But as you kind of pull this together, I do see, just from your outline there, I see a lot of the corollary with EOS, because in the entrepreneur operating system, there is a reference to many of those same things. Let's start with what I think a lot of people would agree is the tricky one. What about the people process? What are you encouraging owners to think about when they consider the people that they're looking for on their team?
So the first thing is that you want to make sure that you articulate your culture. What are your core values? That embody your specific unique culture, and you want to find the people that actually embrace those core values, that resonate with those core values. So that's really important, and that's a way for the business owner and the founders to essentially inject their personal values into the DNA of the company, so they can perpetuate the values of the founders that typically determine these. And then the next one is to figure out what this business needs. What are those major functions that you have to operate in the business? And when you're a founder, first you wear all the hats, but we only have 24 hours a day. So you have to start shedding those hats and what are going to be those major functions, and how do you find the right person who fits your core values and who can execute on those functions and deliver the outcomes that you need for those functions, the sales functions, operations, finance, administration, whatever they are for your business, marketing. So that's the second thing, and then we have a tool we call the talent assessment, where we rate people. Okay, if you are 9 or 10 on both culture fit and productivity, you're an A player, and then you're a little below, then you're an A potential, and if you are low on culture fit but high on productivity, then we call you a crank. You are delivering, but people don't like to work with you, or you undermine our culture. If you are great on culture fit, but you're not productive, then we call you a camper. It's great to have a beer with you around the campfire, but you're not going to build the tents, and you're not going to pick the firewood or cook dinner. So the talent assessment, and then we talk about how do you coach your A potential. So the emphasis in let's coach the A potential so that they become A players, and let's grow the company so the A players are going to have somewhere to go. And let's not drain our energy by trying to fix the B and BC players, because they probably it's not the right home for them.
Yeah.
So that's basically the right seats, and then creating a culture of coaching and mentoring in the organization.
Yeah. And I think it goes without saying, in most small businesses, the classic, what we down here call the mom and pop shop, they open up the business, and they might be relying on family and friends to fill some of those jobs they've got, because number one, they're available, they're likely cheap, they don't have to pay them as much, they're willing to help for their friends, but the problem is they're also not necessarily the best fit for the job. They're getting some work done, but as Wickman did in the EOS, he is keen on encouraging owners to define the job first and then go find the person, and don't make a job fit a person, but find a person that fits the job. So I think that's a huge element when I see a lot of entrepreneurs get kind of stuck in that mode.
Yeah, because you start the business with people that you trust, they trust you, and it's kind of a family. And then as you grow the business, you try to, find a place for them, even if they don't fit, or if they leave, then you try to replace that person rather than find the ideal person for the function that the business needs.
Yeah,
and that tends to be a big mistake.
Yeah. So let's move over to the purpose pillar. How do you typically help people do the work to define what their purpose ought to be about?
So again, it's a process of discovery, and the goal of doing that is really to connect people to a bigger goal in the company. It's a huge opportunity that many businesses don't leverage, don't utilize, is to have people be excited for what you do, the societal benefit that your company is generating. Because if you can do that, then people will find the job much more meaningful. They're going to be prouder to work for your organization, and then they are going to bring their energy, their emotional energy, to bear. It's not just going to be a job for them anymore, but they're going to be on a mission for you. They're going to be a missionary rather than a mercenary, as Jeff Bezos says it, for the business. So that's kind of the idea. And Peter Drucker talked about this back in the 1950s, that every business, the goal of a business is not to make money; it's just a byproduct of serving a purpose outside of itself for other people. So that's what we're trying to find. So we start with this core purpose, or just cause, or the why of the business, which may be 50, 100 years out. It may be a really long-term thing, but it's a big idea. And I like to illustrate this like if you have a mountain, you're climbing that mountain, the pinnacle of that mountain is your long-term goal, big long-term goal, then your purpose is going to be the moon behind the mountain. So it's not connected, it's far out there. So we start with this moon, figuring out what this why is. And for example, I just got off the phone with one of my clients who run a contracting company for energy efficiency, and their purpose is they want to advance life at home. They want to make sure that people are more comfortable, their heating and electricity costs less, and they have, they save the environment. So advanced life at home, that's their purpose. And their big pinnacle, that's the next one, the top of the mountain, is to convert 1 million houses into net zero, so that all these houses are not going to burden the environment. That's the pinnacle. And then they have the medium-term milestones along the way that they have to hit. They have to equip themselves. They have to be able to deliver all those heat pumps and solar cells and train their people and create this culture. And then the strategy is the next level down the hill. And how are you going to achieve those milestones? How are you different? So they figured out what their brand promises and one phrase strategy is, and that's the purpose. So going from the why to the pinnacle to the milestones and to your strategy, and then you know where you're going, how you're going to get there.
Very good. And just speaking of those 2 points, so we talked about the purpose and then the people, and let me kind of camp out right there a minute. I think it's important that owners and operators of businesses do the work on the purpose, but as they use that and they define the culture, then that really dictates a lot about the people they need to find. Because you can do a lot of work creating a purpose and a definition of a culture, which ultimately drives your brand in the marketplace. But if you don't have the right people to live that brand and live that culture, you're not going to deliver on the brand.
So one of the purposes of the purpose and the vision is to attract the right people. Mm-hmm. Especially in these day and age, hiring is the new sales. We are all, most companies are looking for people, the right people. It's really difficult to find good people and to keep them, those A players.
Right.
And it's much easier to do if you have a compelling purpose for your business, if you are advancing life at home, if you're converting 1 million houses into net zero and you have a story to tell, then it's going to be much more exciting for people who share your ambitions to join you.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And it, like I said, it's always interesting to hear a company spend money advertising what their purpose is and the greater good they're going to provide for mankind. And then you might go to their facility and you see people walking around that aren't anywhere close to supporting that. If the company's made out to be like pretty altruistic and pretty beneficial, well, I don't want to pick on your example there, but if they want to do all this energy efficiency, I guess you could argue if you drove up in their parking lot and everybody was driving all these giant SUVs with gas guzzlers, there would be a little bit of a disconnect there in what they're about.
So it's really important that it's not just articulating what your vision and strategy are, but to align the whole organization around it.
I love that word, alignment.
Everything. It's part of your vehicle policy. It's part of all your tactics or your strategies, even your office layout. So the ideal company that is all about energy efficiency, they will be a net zero office, right? And they would be able to demonstrate that here's the heat pump, here's the solar cell, here's the battery wall, and here are our electric vehicles in the driveway, and this is how we do this.
Yeah. Well, that's great, Steve. Tell you what, we're going to take a short break for a commercial message, and when we get back, we're going to round the corner and cover the other 3 parts of the Pinnacle model. So hang with us. We'll see you on the other side.
Business is all about solving complex problems as fast as you can create them. Become the best problem solver by leading others to greatness too. And the first step is going to DougThorpe.com. Doug Thorpe is known globally for coaching entrepreneurs and business leaders, improving their performance and the work output of everyone surrounding them. You can find health, wealth, and happiness by learning to lead others to health, wealth, and happiness. Go to DougThorpe.com now and order Doug's books or hire him to coach your managers. That's Doug, THORPE.com.
Hello again, everyone. We're back. This is Leadership Powered by Common Sense. I'm Doug Thorpe, and today my guest is if I can get his name out of my mouth, his name is Steve Preda. He is sharing with us something called the Pinnacle model, a 5-pillar model for business efficiency and design. Steve, we covered the first 2 parts of the model. Let's dive into number 3, and I love the word for it, playbook. Helping a business have a playbook on, I presume that's going to be about process, procedure, and scalability, repeatability, all of those good things.
You got it, Doug. So it's all about creating consistency and scalability in your business. It's allowing creating this blueprint for people so that they can execute the best practice and they can refine and optimize it over time. And then you could also relieve the people at the top and at middle management, every level of the company, that they can all focus on non-repeatable tasks. Creating that customer experience, customer delight, growing the company at the strategic level, finding the right people, and so on. So our playbook model is based on it was catalyzed by the idea that David Jennings articulated in his book Systemology 2 years ago. And it's a fantastic book. It's essentially taking the EMIS to the next level and taking systemization of businesses to the next level. And what we came up with is a 5-step model to create these playbooks. And the 5 steps are based on this idea that you can create a role separation. Because in the old model, you would go to your best salesperson and say, hey, Mr. Salesperson, you got the best practice in our organization. Please document your processes because we want everyone else to sell the way you are. Now, there were 2 problems with this. The first of all, the salesperson may not have even been clear on how he was doing it, because part of it, he was doing it intuitively. So for him, the process was natural, it was organic, it was not a sequential thing. Secondly, it really didn't benefit him personally to have a process, because that was his secret sauce. Plus, he was too busy selling. So he probably procrastinated on this and maybe even sabotaged it. It was not in his best interest.
Yeah.
So what we what David Jennings came up with, this idea of role separation. So why didn't you just have this best practice owner, this star salesperson, to just show how he does it, and then have someone else document it, which has the added benefit of that person will be much more system friendly, and they are going to be objective. So they're going to look with the outside eye, which is what we want, because we want a layperson to be able to do that. And then we relieve the pressure on that best practice owner. We just let them do their thing. And we also just going to have this power through this. So here are the 5 steps. The first one is to select your playbook. So what are the playbooks that you want to start with? We like to recommend the customer journey playbook and the employee journey playbook. These are the most important ones. So select the playbooks. Second step, record it. So video or audio, how this is being performed. If you're a construction company, put a GoPro on the helmet of that engineer and let them just record everything they do. If you are that salesperson, then flick on the iPhone, the voice recorder on your iPhone, and just record how they make the pitch. So that's step 2, audio or video recording. Step 3, document that process, this playbook. So here is where our observer comes in. They take the recording, they watch the person, they document, okay, what are step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what are the bullet points. It's a simple checklist form of documentation. Step number 4, review it. So send it to the people who can give input, the best practice owner, the leadership team members, whoever else has an input. Let them critique it, let them sign off on it. That's step 4. And step 5, activate. So put it in your playbook repository, inform everyone, announce it that now we have a playbook, and then you got your playbook. And basically, this removes all the friction from creating playbooks, because you have a person who just does it as a job. You have a champion who makes sure it happens, and everyone just delivers their best practice.
That's great. And then that becomes the optimum resource for indoctrinating new employees, bringing new talent in, moving people around between jobs if the company's big enough. And you have to break all that down. And then also you've got a good framework for improvement over time. If you discover a new option or a new alternative for a step in your process, maybe you change out a system that's you've got to do the update there, but it becomes much more of a plug and play solution to maintain that optimization rather than figuring out how to start from scratch.
Yeah. So you first ingrain it in your organization so that everyone uses it, and then you optimize it over time. So you enrich it where you need to add more steps, add more value, or you simplify it, and that becomes your process of improving your playbooks in the company.
Ultimately, it's not too different from some of the Six Sigma process improvement type methodologies. I know many years ago, I was introduced to process improvement at the banking organization I was part of, and we did a very massive initiative. We divided the bank up into about 16 different lines of business segments or operating units, whatever you want to call it. We assigned people to go into those units, and we assigned them on the basis of they were coming from another part of the bank and had no clue what was going on in that department. And so they were true objective observers, and they started doing white paper layouts of, all right, customer experience, let's start at step 1. What's the first thing that happens? What's next and next and next, and so on and so on. And when we got all those flow charts and graphs and documentation done, it was pretty easy for the objective observer to stand back and go, well, these steps don't make any sense. Why do you have to do this, this, and this? And
BPR, business process improvement.
Yep. And ultimately, we squeezed about $52 million out of our annual operating budget by eliminating redundant steps and things that did not add value. So we streamlined a lot of things, eliminated a lot of things, and we challenged a lot of people in that process, as you can imagine, because, by the way, if you got assigned to be on a work team to go into another unit, you couldn't leave your day job. You still had your day job, but you had to go do this other thing.
Right. So it's never popular. Consultants are never popular. That come in.
Well, we were in-house consultants is what we were. So we didn't get to rely on outside resources. But anyway, so let's talk about performance. How does your model view the subject of performance?
So performance is all about breaking down our vision and our strategy into an annual growth plan. Quarterly, we call it FAST rocks. FAST is a new acronym. So the old acronym is SMART. Most of our listeners probably are familiar: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. Our acronym is FAST. This acronym came out of a paper from MIT 2018. And they said that what these quarterly objectives have to be, they have to be fast, frequently reviewed. Because if you just set them and put them in the drawer, then we're just going to find that they are not done at the end of the quarter. So frequently reviewed. A stands for ambitious rather than achievable. So achievable rocks are often sandbagged. So we don't want to sandbag. We want to move the company forward. So we want to make them ambitious. S stands for specific, like in SMART. And then T is transparent. So the more people know about it, the more powerful this peer accountability becomes. And it also aligns the company. If everyone in the company knows what the fast rocks for the quarter are for the company, what the priorities are, everyone can fall into line and support that. So that's the quarterly objectives. We also, we believe in creating a scoreboard because A players like to play the game and count the score, right? And it's much more engaging. And then we need a meeting structure because meetings are the stage for the executive. And we basically do our work through meetings. We catalyze, we coach people, we make decisions, we engage people through meetings, and we need a meeting structure. It's not enough to run a weekly meeting. We need to have a daily stand-up. We need to look at our numbers every month and our rocks. And we need, quarterly strategic meetings, annual planning meetings. So we need a meeting structure in the organization. And if you have that, if everyone is working on achieving your fast rocks, if people are keeping score and there's a meeting structure so that we are communicating well and we are holding each other accountable, then there's no way of the company not performing really well.
So you whispered the magic word I was looking for there, accountable. So you were saying hold each other accountable. Talk to us a little more about your view on the way accountability can be created inside a company.
So the old way of accountability is the top down. So the boss is holding everyone accountable below them. So it's all on the boss to do the heavy lifting of, forcing performance out of people. And we believe that this is not how A players and A potentials like to operate. People want to be successful, especially A players who are, who have the ambition, the drive to do a good job, who fit your culture. They want to be successful. They signed up for your mission, for your purpose, and they are energized by being part of your culture. So they want the company to succeed. So it's not a question of forcing them to do anything. It's about keeping score on the team and making sure that it's transparent how everyone is doing, and let the peer pressure do the heavy lifting of accountability. No one wants to let the team down, and accountability happens. You basically, you create a structure for great people that help them be successful. That's what accountability is. It's not about compulsion.
I like that because that is a question that comes up frequently from leaders and managers I work with. They're struggling with the idea of creating accountability, and inevitably, what has happened is over the last so many years, just the word itself, accountability or creating accountable situations, carries a lot of negative connotation, and it is from that top-down lens that I think the negativity comes. The implication is when I give you your scorecard as part of our accountability system, if you haven't achieved certain things, there will be consequences. And there's that very, negative enforcement of the standard. And so the more I call them enlightened leaders that are out there now are trying to look for ways to where they can eliminate all of that negativity and yet create the relationship with employees that good work gets done and objectives and goals and forward progress happens.
I mean, think about professional sports. So in soccer, if someone is not scoring goals, not giving passes, not defending well, it's quite obvious that they are not helping the team. It's not a question of any personal conflict. It's who is supporting the team. It's same in football, same in basketball. If you're not contributing to the team in a measurable way, then you probably don't have a place on the team because you are taking up space for someone else who could contribute. So, A players want to be measured because they want to know that it's not just them who is performing, but everyone else, so that the team can win.
Yeah. I like that. And recently I had a guest on the show. His name was Jeff Cohen, and he actually wrote a book that he calls Being Count Onable. So he turns the lens to the individual, and in your case, we'll call it the A players. The question ought to become not, am I being held accountable, but
can I be counted on?
Can I be counted on by the people around me and, carry my load, manage my desk, my workstation, my area? Can I do what I need to do to contribute to the greater good and change the whole discussion and dynamic? And often it's a matter of going back to the purpose that we talked about earlier. Is even when you're talking about the measurements, the KPIs, and then the measurement metrics that you're going to be looking at, you point those back at the whole purpose and say, are we achieving our purpose?
Exactly. Yeah, you got it.
So valuable there. So one more pillar in the Pinnacle model, you've got profit. I maybe that's obvious, maybe not, but go ahead and explain the context in your model.
So listen, that profit is the lifeblood of any business. So without profit, a business cannot innovate, it cannot take advantage of opportunities, and it cannot look after its people and its shareholders. So we have to have profit. And if you have an organization where you have the right people and they are being coached in the right seats, and they are powered by your purpose, and they execute their playbooks, and everyone's performing at a high level, you're going to be profitable. Unless you are in a dying business, you're going to be profitable. And then the question becomes, how do you actually achieve an elite level of profitability? And do we benchmark your business to the top 16%, the top septile, top 1/7 of the players in the industry, and see how they are doing? And we aspire to engineer the business so that we deliver that level of profitability. And then we create this intertwined strategy stack. It's a stack of differentiated strategies that together are going to create this moat around your business. It's going to be super hard for anyone to copy your business. Think about IKEA. They have all those differentiators. They have the big warehouse stores next to motorways. They got the winding shopping experience. They have the Swedish meatballs. They got obviously the most important is the design and the self-assembled furniture. And these are possible to copy, but they also have the supply chain that is not visible to the outside world. And these together create an uncopyable combination. I did the research, and the largest competitor of IKEA, Jysk, they are 1/10 of the size of IKEA. The second largest competitor, Kika, is 1/20 of their size. And they've been dominating the furniture business the last 40 to 50 years. And the owner was the owner was the richest person in Europe for several years. So that's the kind of thing that you can do if you have a good strategy stack. You can look at, Starbucks. They are in their own universe. So how do you create this category 1 industry player by differentiating and creating sustainable high profits?
Yeah. And creating that unique space in the market that is typified by that total uniqueness of what you're doing and how you're doing it. That, of course, is the huge differentiator that creates the so-called exponential growth type company. Let me ask you this: when you might first begin working with an owner, a small business, maybe they've made it to a certain level of revenue, is there a logical sequence of events that you go through assessing or doing, I guess, what I would call a health check to advise what they need to start on first?
Did you read the book?
Not yet. I haven't.
Okay, because yeah, you got it. So we basically do kind of a health audit of the company. So we touch every area. We look at the people, purpose, performance playbook, profit, every area of the company. Do they have the vision? Do they have the execution in place? Do they have playbooks? Where are they with their people, their structure, and so on? And we put together a customized journey for them. What are the the biggest levers that we can pull so that we give them the biggest lift up front, and then we start working on all the principles, and kind of in a concentric circle we go and we make it bigger and bigger over time. And there are, we have certain tools that every company needs, and then we have a lot of other tools that we can bring to bear wherever is needed to for that business. And it's kind of a curation because, the typical business owner, they read all the books, they heard all the speakers, and they have already tried to implement a lot of their ideas, but it can be very confusing, and it's very hard to sustain without a coherent system that pulls it all together. So that's kind of the skeleton, the chassis, the Pinnacle system that allows you to then integrate all those ideas that you need for your business in a digestible format.
I don't know what it is in the universe right now, but I'm going through a season in my own business where I run into owners who are interested in engaging, but inevitably the first thing that comes out of their mouth is not so much about I'm not hitting my profit goals, or I'm not productive, or I've got turnover. It's none of that. What the owners are complaining about is I don't have time. They're saying I'm buried in the weeds. I'm admitting that. And of course, as we've heard often, and I think it is mentioned specifically in Gino's book about traction, the whole notion of work on the business, not in the business. And what do you find as you're talking to these owners and coming? How do you tackle the question of them having time?
Well, we only have 24 hours, right? It's very democratic in that way that everyone, whether you're a rich person or a poor person, you have 24 hours in a day. So what we want to do is we want the business owner to do only those tasks that only they can do, that is the most valuable. For a business owner, typically the most valuable things are strategizing, figuring out where to take the company, figuring out which markets to tackle, which products to introduce, these really high level things. But when you're starting up, you're wearing all the hats. So you're doing everything, you're managing yourself, and then you're supposed to be leading yourself as well. And what Michael Gerber kind of put his finger on it, that you have to start working on the business, not just in the business. So the process is all about shifting the burden of leadership and management of the business owner to the leadership team, and then on to the middle management and further down in the organization.
Yeah.
So helping, teaching the leadership team members to be able to lead people, to make decisions, to solve problems, to improve their judgment, to improve their people skills, and then to model this behavior further on in the organization. That's kind of process of elevating. I always like to tell my leadership teams that, okay, this is a $10 million revenue company. You want to 5x this business in 5 years. You want to go to 50 million. Guess what? Each one of you will have to be 5 times more impactful in this company for you to be on the leadership team of the $50 million company. So it's your responsibility to grow your impact, grow your influence and your capabilities by delegating, by learning new stuff, by elevating your stuff to higher value activities.
Yeah, I agree. And that is a very good message and a good way to put it, that whatever multiple they're looking for, it has to get down to their ability as well. So finding the ways to 3x, 5x, 10x, whatever that is that they're shooting for, they got to look in the mirror and see what it's going to take for them to do that same growth. Well, Steve, this has been great. Thank you so much for sharing. Tell people the best way to get a hold of you if they're looking for more information.
So my website is stevepreda.com, stevepreda.com. And you can download the summaries of my books. There is a Pinnacle journey assessment, so you can assess your company, where you are on this journey. You can also connect through to Amazon and buy my books there if you want. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well, Steve Preda. I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn, and you can reach out and we can talk that way.
Very good. One last time again, Steve, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Doug. It's been fun.
Likewise. Well, folks, we're going to wrap this up. I do want to remind everybody, if you're listening to this audio on your favorite streaming channel, we are available also on YouTube by video over at a channel by the same name, Leadership Powered by Common Sense. And I want to put a plug in. This show is also now being featured over on the IBGR network. It's a global network of broadcasters and show hosts. That's ibgr.network. That's how you can get it on the web. This particular show is being featured on Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the IBGR network broadcast. So hop in over there. If you're out more remotely from where you might otherwise be, you can always pick us up there. So look forward to seeing you there. And for now, we're going to sign off, say goodbye, and thank you for listening.
You've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit dougthorpe.com.